being here today. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. I thought that this would be a good outlet and that this would be fun and informative. And we are going to have a Q&A afterwards. We want this to be very upbeat. I know that it's stressful to be at home working, running a business, and then also making sure that your kids are okay. So all of us completely understand the stress that you were feeling, and I hope that this will provide you a little bit of insight, hopefully some useful tips, and hopefully you can connect with each other afterwards. My name is Cherish Dela Cruz, and I am the owner of Dela Cruz Law. I have my own estate planning law firm, so I work a lot with successful female entrepreneurs, small business owners, and multi-generational families. And it's important for me to be a resource for other women. Generally, what I usually do is have like a women in wine event. I also have a foodie networking group and a lawyers who lunch group. So if any of you are interested in joining any of those, I'm always looking to build community and
Maddie,
other
no,
resources.
Stop it.
Okay. So Emily, you might want to do that in a second. Okay. And then our next, Emily, hey, or Tara, did you want to jump in and then we can go to Emily and then.
Sure. You want me to introduce myself?
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Tara Winslow with Winslow Home Professionals. I like to say I'm a recovering corporate America sales executive. I spent 12 years selling technology. Ironically, at the end of my technology career was online collaboration tools, and here I am using them every day again. So I did that, and I switched into my passion, which was to be an entrepreneur, and I'm in real estate. I've been in real estate for the past 9 years. And I look to be a strategic residential real estate resource to my clients and help them build their wealth through real estate investments. And thank you, Cherish, for putting this together today. And I'm glad that if I can help anybody in any way, I look forward to doing that today.
Thanks, Tara. Emily?
Sure.
Are you okay.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Okay. Sorry about that.
Don't apologize, Emily. We all know.
I'm sure you all are used to
it.
So I am a divorce lawyer. I own You Family Law. I do divorce, contested custody, contempt, alimony, and I tend to do the cases that are more high conflict, involving contested custody usually. And I'm really excited to be here. And thank you so much for putting it together.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate that. And Erin, if you want to introduce yourself.
Of course. My name is Erin Gershkin-Zhang. I'm also an attorney, as are two of our panelists. I have a criminal defense practice out of Ponce City Market in Atlanta, and I focus mainly on cases involving drugs or alcohol or traffic matters, so a lot of DUI litigation. But I also happen to be a co-founder of AtlantaLegalTech.com, which is a woman-led organization where we focus on helping small businesses, primarily small legal businesses, succeed in today's modern world. So a lot of all of these things about remote working and how do you get your clients to onboard remotely. There's a lot of lawyers and businesses who have been doing that forever, but now it's really exciting that there's so many other businesses who are more curious about it these days. So that's the other hat I wear. I'm also a mom.
Oh yes, we didn't even talk about our children. So, so Erin, if you wanted to talk about, and then Amanda, if we can pull up the slideshow, we put together a little funny slideshow of us, doing the things that we're doing right now. So Amanda, if you want to go ahead and show that a little bit. Hopefully she can hear me. I don't know. She's got a page forward. I was having technical issues, but if you want to talk about your daughter.
Sure. So I have one daughter, Penny. She's 9.5 and in 4th grade. And so I think what's really interesting is like hearing from other moms, a lot of our challenges depend on the number of children and like the age, because it's so interesting. Never before has that contrast been so stark. You know,
Yeah.
the difference between being, my sister has a 1.5-year-old, and her challenges are completely different from the challenges I have momming, you know, at home while working.
And then we just wanted, if you want to page forward, Amanda, and then we can just kind of do a little bit of the pictures. So I thought that this was a fun little not spreadsheet, but like an icon of exactly what I'm going through and what I think a lot of the moms that I am that are in my network, that are my friends and my relatives. And so it's just the idea of like, what are we doing for ourselves? And then also caring for kids and the thoughts and experiences that we may be experiencing. And just some tips. We are going to collect and send you some information and resources that have helped us through this time. And if we can ever be a resource for any of you, then we definitely want to be. Amanda, if you can page forward. Okay, and then that's Tara's picture and bio. And then Tara, if you want to go explain your little pictures.
Yeah, so I have a 5-year-old son, and his name's Harrison. And he's my one and only, and I kind of designed my own life and had my son on my own. And we've been working through everything since I'm a full-time realtor, and I typically work out of my office, and he is at school most of every day. So it's been interesting, our worlds. And we have been spending a lot of time, we were spending a lot of time at Stone Mountain, which was kind of our refuge of getting out into nature and exercising and, going on the little mountains and kind of staying away from everyone. And now we're pretty much in our house that is getting smaller every day. And so I'm going to call a professional myself to help me out here and take advantage of the interest rates. But yeah, we just, it's a lot of our stuff is all over the floor, and my son loves Legos, and he can sit there for hours, which is great on some days, particularly right now in a webinar.
And that's just a picture of me in my bio. But so this is us on a typical day. So our house is a mess, as you can tell. My oldest daughter, so my son to the left, his name is Aiden. So I have 3 children. So he, God love him, he's full of energy. He is, he's been formally diagnosed with ADHD. And so that has been a struggle for me in the sense of we are not doing the usual routines to keep us, I guess, to maintain our sanity. So usually he has karate, usually he has outdoor activities that he can do. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge. There's my husband and my daughter, Sophia. So we're making the kids do little activities like, peeling carrots. And we also started doing candles. We are making candles and we're sending them to all of our loved ones, our network. We did that anyways beforehand, but this just gives us a project to do. It has been challenging to do the online work. Last week, we live in Gwinnett County, and last week was a little bit of a breather for us because we didn't have any school activities. I think the challenge right now for me is just maintaining that routine. And so I would love to, I'll definitely share all of the candle recipes. So we will, because I'm looking at all the posts, but yeah. And so my daughter is a ballerina, and she has been fortunately able to do some ballet classes. So that part has been okay. It's just staying in. We're very social people, and that's been challenging. There's Emily.
Hi. Okay, what did I send? I forget. Oh, that set of chaos. So my daughter's name is Madison. She's a little frustrated right now because I think she wants to come down. So you may meet her. What are we? 11 minutes in.
Which is totally fine, Emily.
So she's 4 years old. And like Tara, you know, I do a lot of work from home. My practice is mostly virtual, but she usually goes to daycare. She is not missing her friends or having to go to school. She seems to be delighted to be home. I am her favorite playmate, and it is kicking my butt. This is so hard. So, you know, I brought her into the office with me, which is that middle picture. She set up a desk for the two of us. You know, I pulled out a bunch of arts and crafts. We've been through most things once already, most mediums, so we're going to have to kind of cycle back through. And the tent has been a decent hit, and I built a new tent this morning thinking that, you know, it would be perfect and she'd be in there right now, but my plan has failed. And I think, you know, we were talking about it a little earlier, and I think that some of our mom training is really helpful right now because we've already been trained to be flexible at home as much as possible and to have a contingency plan. You know, if bribe one doesn't work, we're going to move to the second one. So I think we are, you know, we are really testing those skills right now. So it's been a challenge, and you can come on in and come say hi. But I've been, you know, trying, as far as work goes, it's trying to get up early to get some stuff done is probably about all I can do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, no, definitely. Thank you, Emily. Erin?
Okay, so yeah, challenges are definitely different based upon the age. You can see here photoed with a woman with a mask. That's my mother-in-law, who's adorable, and who is Penny's like my daughter's like favorite person, and they usually hang out every day. And so this has been like really hard, I think, on both of them. So Grandma came over and she like hung out in the afternoon and socially distanced while they read in the backyard. So that was adorable, but also a crazy new way to be living in this world. And then we've also been trying to, one of our struggles is not, it's nice because we don't have some, you know, she definitely would prefer more playtime. She's like, you guys don't play with me enough. So right now our you know, sort of challenge is figuring out ways to channel good energy, but also in a helpful way, because we're sort of past the, like, I think when they're younger, it's like, okay, well, let's just keep you entertained. And now it's like, okay, but like, you can't also destroy my house. Like I need you to be helpful. So we've been trying to use this as an opportunity to get more housework. She's like, oh, let me, being raised by entrepreneurs, she's like, let me help. I'm going to work on a flyer for your businesses. That's
That's awesome.
Let me tell you, housework is helpful to me. Like what I need is housework. So that's with limited success. We've been getting, you know, out the vacuum and trying to do our best to not let our house just fall apart in the mess, and you know, channel all of that energy in productive ways.
And so what has been, and we'll just jump right into the question. So what has, so what are the strategies, habits, or routines that have been keeping you sane?
For me,
Erin.
it's, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead,
no,
Erin.
no, go ahead, Tara. Yeah,
sorry, I didn't know if we were on a rotation or.
Yeah.
For me, I'm still waking up early, so I'm an early bird, and I wake up usually between 4:30 and 5. And I've done that for years now, and it's even more, it's my self-care time now even more. So when I wake up, I typically have about an hour and a half to 2 hours to do what I need to prepare myself. And for me, it's meditation, it's stretching, it's listening to a podcast that's educational and uplifting for me. And I've been writing gratitudes, 5 gratitudes a day, and to really help me get centered. And I just started incorporating 30 push-ups in the morning too, because my exercise routine is, you know, it's taken a hit the past couple of weeks, and I need to get something in at least in the morning. So I feel really good about that. I drink hot lemon water, and I feel like I'm ready for the day by doing those things, Cherish. I mean, just taking care of myself to get ready.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Erin and Emily?
I've been really trying to experiment. I wouldn't say that I found the perfect routine right now. I've just had like these pillars of like things that I have to remind myself. So like movement, exercise is one of those things that I've been trying to commit to every day. Been doing a lot of yoga at home. I'm a CrossFitter, so like the lack of being
Okay.
able to go to the gym is in my brain, and my lawyer brain is like making me insane that I can't like stick to my old routine. So I've been having to just like breathe into that and do some yoga every morning in my living room, and that's been actually great.
Oh,
Um,
good.
but I think extending myself some grace, like I tend to walk through my days normally with like a lot of shoulds in my brain of like, oh, you should do this, you should be doing this. And then a lot of criticism when I don't do the things that I'm, shoulding myself about. So I've been trying to remind myself, like I've tried to notice that popping up, and there's really no shoulds right now. Like everything's sort of like, everything's chaotic. There's no expectation that we should be doing everything normally. So I've been trying to give myself grace and extend that to the people around me that, it's okay if everything is not going as planned. And that has been a huge thing for me to try to embrace. So I'm on
Oh,
the
no,
path.
definitely. Yes. Well, that's good. How about you, Emily?
Well, I think I've really channeled what Erin just finished talking about, which is extending yourself some grace, um, not trying to be overly productive. Writing down gratitudes has been on my list of things I want to do and build into my routine for a while, and it's still not there. And although I will say, like this time, I feel like it's more important to look at some of those things and to try a little harder to build them into the routine. So I have been taking a moment to write down one or two things or to jot down a little bit about what I felt good about for the day. Um,
Hmm.
and that's been really helpful. And I consider basically anything a win if I can. Um, I'm sure everyone went through this too, but like I forgot that I have to feed her lunch. That's a meal that I'm not used to taking care of.
Me too.
Yes, I
And
completely
so,
understand.
right? And so like for a while there was like an alarm on my clock at like 11 to not forget. And so, part of my wins was you fed her lunch today. You remembered before she got super grouchy. Um,
Right, right.
and I think it's been a struggle to kind of keep that perspective because at least initially, I think it's coming back around now, but at least initially there were so many articles about, do this with your new free time.
Right, right,
For us lawyers, it's all been about, what can you do with your marketing? And, I don't know what I can do with my marketing right now.
right.
And so, remembering that we are in the midst of something very serious.
Hmm.
And I don't know why anyone thought that we could work from home and homeschool. I think that's so crazy. And so I try to just remind myself that that's not actually possible. Not, and especially not at 4. She doesn't have enough homeschool materials to keep her busy.
Hmm.
Um,
No, I definitely think it has to do with the age as well, too. It does get easier as they get older.
Although I think as they get older, they probably get a bit more stir crazy in the house and they need a little bit more like change of environment, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, But as far as things that I've stuck to, I also get up early, and now I make sure I get up early because it's the only time I have to myself. Um, and then I go to bed early, which is pretty important for me too, so that I can get up early. And those are the only 2 consistencies that I can promise at the moment.
But that's good though. I mean, at least there's what, there's some consistencies in your life. For me, it's been just trying to get up way before the kids. So even if I have an hour ahead of them, then my life is okay. And if that means I have to wake them up at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, then that's okay. I mean, usually my son, he's an early riser, but just having that piece of it it makes it a little bit easier because then you're not just jumping into your day. And for me, journaling has been helpful. I journaled before, but this is, you know, generally, I mean, during the first initial week, it was really challenging for me to continue my routine because I was out of sorts. I wasn't running to Buckhead, or I wasn't running to a breakfast feeding or running around. And so I think that was the biggest challenge for me because I didn't have that sense of urgency. But now that I'm slowly, very, very slowly starting to get back into that routine, and then, just highlighting the wins of, yeah, I mean, feeding my children is that's a win, or not yelling at them for like an hour. Yeah, it does count. And so just remembering the wins. And so I remember Erin was saying, just little wins. So it could be, hey, I took a shower today, and I got up, I walked around the neighborhood, and trying to stick as much to any kind of semblance of a routine. So now I think it's like, okay, we're gonna do work from 9 to 12, maybe have lunch, and then if my day ends, I think we were talking about this, at 3 or 4, and I'm emotionally exhausted, even though I haven't left the house, I'm just so exhausted that I'm just lying down. It's okay. So tell me, ladies, what have been the most challenging things for your business? And anyone can jump in here. Or for your work.
I think for me, just in terms of being able to anticipate the flow, like I do, as I said, a lot of criminal defense and drug and alcohol and traffic related cases. So just in terms of flow, the courts are closed. So that's having a huge impact. If you don't have a court date, then and you're already out of jail, then you don't really need a lawyer yet. So trying to anticipate those as a small business owner and understanding, well, I don't need to be paying a lot in advertising or marketing if there's not a lot of people who have the pain point that, I can help with. So trying to figure out and allocate funds in the right places, because just like that those traditional marketing streams may not be effective right now, but with everybody being stuck and socially distanced, question of like, is there new marketing or new tools or new webinar tools or new sort of ways of connecting that I should be investing in for my business. So sort of navigating those waters and experimenting with new and different things as the world around us changes rapidly is challenging.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And just, as a shout out to the Atlanta legal tech community, Erin and, all of, just Kimberly and just your whole team in terms of the legal and the online tools. I mean, it's definitely, if you were a solo small firm or if you're a small business, to check out your business in that sense, because I think it has been helpful. I went to Erin's event earlier this year, and it just made me think about my virtual capacities. And so those are good resources for anybody to look into, but especially solo small firms, I think would be a great resource for them.
I think for me,
go on, Emily.
So doing a lot of family law, I think the most challenging piece for me has been continuing to provide service. And part of my service is being, and for all of us, right, is being a sounding board for difficult decisions with multiple factors. And of course, one of the things that have come up in my practice with the lockdown is, do we exchange the children? We have concerns about who they're going to be exposed to. The other side isn't taking it seriously, and to remember that I still have to walk through a legal analysis, even though it's emotional, right? And so that's, keeping myself grounded when I'm hearing things that are a little shocking. I've heard things about what people are doing that I don't agree with, given social distancing principles and stuff. But also reminding people that although it's probably the most difficult time to be kind and patient, it's probably the most important time for it. So on that side of, the business, that's been a bit of a struggle. On the other side of the business, it's funny, Erin, because I hear what you're saying about people not being out and, what do you do with your marketing? And I've been wondering the same thing, how do we pivot, right? And it's extra hard because I don't think anyone really knows where this is headed. We don't really know how long it's going to be. And it's hard to gauge how much impact there's going to be. So that's what I would say for now.
Well, and I think there's also that question of tone, right? You don't know. All of my messaging and marketing was for an old world where people weren't cooped up living in their house. Like, so those pain points are completely different, and figuring out the right tone to be selling, because that's, if you're, I think that there's also that tension out there for small business owners of like, oh, you shouldn't be selling, like, so there's too much selling happening and promoting your business. And I always, whenever I hear that, it always strikes me like to think, yeah, but that's like really a criticism, and maybe this is just me over genderizing it, but like that's really a criticism of women, like the people who I see going online and offering a lot of like expertise online or webinars or ways to improve. I think it's hard for business owners to understand how can we continue to provide value in this new world, but then you're also bumping up against these shifting cultural norms of what's appropriate and what's not, because we don't yet know. People were still posting 2 weeks ago on social media, like, here I am at a small dinner party, right? But like now, 2 weeks later, the cultural norm is like, you will be shamed off of Facebook if you are photos.
Yeah, so totally true. Yeah.
It's just a ground that you can't, as a small business person, it's just a constantly shifting ground that, where you would normally be able to rely on your expertise about the people that you are serving. They have all kinds of new pains and pressures that are much more difficult to anticipate and speak to in this short window as our circumstance changes from week to week. And like, how are you going to be communicating and serving those communities?
No, definitely. And I find that with mine as well, too, because I do estate planning and business planning. A lot of my business clients, we were doing this virtual stuff anyways because they were so busy. But in terms of executing or signing an estate plan during this crisis, what are the things that we are doing to take care of our clients who are coming into the office? And so we've had to come up with really innovative ideas, because things like we need to have witnesses and a notary, but we need to maintain that social distance. And so my first signing during this crisis was, with masks and gloves inside our conference room. And now, because of the heightened alert the pandemic and everything that's going on, we are moving to try to be innovative and do signings inside the car with, everything being reviewed ahead of time virtually. But, that's a change in your processes. That's a change in everything, where you're trying to, like, moment from moment, depending on the situation, you're trying to keep up with everything that's going on. How about you, Emma?
Isn't it so interesting that like was you guys squeezing out all of these inefficiencies? As soon as you said the paperwork was reviewed ahead of time, and I flashed back to like, I don't know, 12 years ago to when I was getting my home, and I was sitting in the lawyer's office like, why am I supposed to be reading this now with all these people watching me? Like, why is this the flow of this process, as an outsider when I was going through it? And so what you just explained, I was like, oh, on some level, that sounds like how it always should have been if you squeeze out all inefficiency.
Right.
And I think as a small business owner, like that's a place to be looking for opportunities as well, because that's one thing we can be certain of is this experience is going to squeeze out a lot of wasteful inefficiencies that inertia this is how we do it because this is how we've always done it. And in the courts, like I'm especially sensitive to that, because that's exactly how every single courtroom across America operates, is based on inertia. And so that's why they all have their own different ways of doing every single thing. But we've interrupted that. And so now it's exciting to think about all those opportunities where we're going to squeeze out those efficiencies, but also scary as a business owner, because what if my business is an inefficiency, right? Like, what if my business is part of that problem?
No. And I totally agree with you on that sense that, I've really looked at my processes and thought about them. I mean, I was always kind of like a process junkie, but now it's like, okay, what can we do? And and somebody said this to me too, that when you're running an office or a team virtually, it's different than having a team in person, because you have to have built-in efficiencies. You have to know what you're talking about or have an agenda before you jump on. And you can't just be like, oh, going back and forth between the offices to say, hey, you know, what are you doing, or what are you not doing, or brainstorming. You have to kind of plan ahead, because that other person could be doing something, could be on a different call, and you just don't have that natural flow as when you're in person.
Yeah.
But
also,
Emily,
oh, sorry.
no, go on. No, go.
It's a great way to think about moving your stuff online too. Like when you think about, if you talked about process, and of course that's one of my hot button topics, but we don't have to get stuck in process. That's not the most sexy topic. We can do that offline.
No, but yes, definitely, guys, if you need anything about processes, you know, hook up with Erin, and she'd be happy to, you know, connect with you. But it's looking at those processes. But Emily, you have your office virtually, right, as well too?
Yeah, so my office has been virtual most of the time. And I'm sorry, she has picked this particular moment to have a pretty big size tantrum, so please bear with me.
Oh, it's okay.
So my office has been mostly virtual. I only go in to meet with clients, or, you know, we do mediations and things like that. And so I've always had a virtual team, and there's just certain things, you know, like Chelsea, you were saying, like being mindful of communication, how you do it, when you do it. And, you know, it is a good time right now to make note of the kinks that you're experiencing in your system, you know, things that are like, oh, I wish that could work a little bit better. For you to address a little bit later too. It's a good time to test some of that stuff out, because the truth is most of us are doing this homeschool, work from home thing. No one's really there the whole time, right? Like you have opportunity to break up your tasks in a different way, to pause and take a moment to say, okay, how could I make that form, you know, send a little bit better, or I don't really like the way my phone system is working. Okay, Peppa is not lighting up properly.
It's a problem.
I'll tell you, this toy has been a pain from the moment we got it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's really smart. Like, it's a great opportunity to play with the flow of our days. I think like all of us have that mentality of 9 to 5, but now we have this, I mean, it doesn't feel like a blank canvas, but we do have a blank canvas of what are the hours that I feel like getting work done. There's a great book. Daniel Pink just released it, I think a year ago. Oh, is it on, what's it called? I can't remember the name of it, but it's.
I know what you're talking about. He's awesome. Time, like it's the time concept.
It's a time.
The 4-week year or something, or 4 month.
No, 4 week. No, that's Tim Ferriss. Also good. The 4-hour work week.
Or that's it. Yeah.
He does not have children. Right there about Tim Ferriss. We don't need to go off on Tim Ferriss. But Daniel Pink is actually, he's written a lot of really good books about work and about how people thrive at work and what drives them. And this one, he's like, nobody really spends time looking at the science of when certain activities should be scheduled. So like, even if you look at shareholder stock meetings and quarterly, you can like look at the stock and evaluate, like you can draw some conclusions about like when the quarterly meeting happened, like how, if it was in the afternoon, it was like less likely to be helpful than it would be in the morning, because our brains are just have a rhythm that we don't ever pay attention to when we're in that 9 to 5 sort of place. So I've been trying to experiment with like, you know, actually 3 to 4 is just like an hour of the day where I'm like, it's not my best hour, where I should just pick.
Me neither. Yeah.
Right? So then I'm like, I'm scheduled in today. I'm like, that's when I'm going to go for a walk with my daughter, which would normally never be available to me in the middle of the day. But I've been trying to experiment to find more of a natural flow.
Yeah. I've been doing that as well. And what's really interesting, and I'm sorry, I keep on having internet connections if you see me pop off, but checking out your schedule on a daily basis. And I've been used to being so structured and having all my time blocked, right? And I'm still wanting to time block, except I find myself, I got to block my time. I've got to block my son's time and the lunch thing. And, you know, are we going to rest today and stuff like that? And it's making you realize that, you know, when I used to do this from 9 to 10, it's okay, Tara, if I do this from 1 to 2, you know, and it's really fascinating because you're rewiring the circuitry in your brain essentially from undoing a habit, which may or may not be good. You know, it's just automated. You're just automated.
And you have that should voice that comes up and it's like, but you should be working. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. How could you not be working? But it's giving yourself that permission to play that.
And,
Yeah, and I
and
think
you're
a
working
lot
more
of- yeah.
efficiently, right?
Right. And I think that, but the shoulds is, I think as working mothers, we do have a lot of those shoulds. And it's the evaluation of, okay, or feeling guilty that you aren't the Pinterest mommy, or you aren't doing all of these things. Because I did feel guilty in the beginning when everyone's like, oh, you have all of this quality time with the children, and you should, and this is what I mean, everyone's like, oh, you should really enjoy this time. You should really enjoy this time. And you're just like, I'm trying to enjoy this time. However, it's very like it's stressful. It's stressful to try to teach your child. It's stressful to, try to bring a healthy meal to the table. And so, I just, and I have a tendency to like get easily distracted. So when there's a lot of noise or there's a lot of things going on, I can't just focus. And how can I focus on the work? But now I'm, slowly getting into a routine.
You know what? I have a total opinion about this. Some of y'all know me pretty well that I have opinions sometimes, and I'm sitting with 3 other attorneys. So I know y'all are competitive and I'm competitive. And the thing is that, taking time to spend with our family is important. And at the same time, when you're a driven person to whatever, see results or be productive or whatever, that is how you're wired. And you have to feed that part of you, or, depression starts to sink in, or anxiety, or whatever it is, because that's how you engage in your life. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
am I on my own on that? I mean, I've really thought through that when I kept on hearing that. And like, it didn't settle in a peaceful way with me. And I wanted to think through why it didn't. And that's what I've come up with for myself.
I think that drives so many successful women. But I also think we need to notice it more, because the problem is we let that voice speak when we don't give ourselves permission to be like, no, I don't need to be overperforming right now. And so for me, breaking up and being like on that, 3 to 4, when I'm on a walk, I have to work really hard to like push out those thoughts of I should be, oh my God, a client called. How am I trying to solve this problem for the client while I'm on a walk? It's like, here's how I solve the problem. I leave my phone at home, right? Like that's like.
Right. No. And
it's hard.
And I think that is hard, because like it's hard for me to just sit down and relax. So last night I was exhausted and I was just like, I'm done. I'm not going to get on this. We had this business coaching call, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing anything else. I will get up early tomorrow morning. But I literally sat there last night on the couch, took a little bit of a nap, and then I watched old episodes of Third Rock from the Sun or the Moon. I don't even know. It was this old 1990s television.
That's a classic.
Show. Yeah. And so I did that. And then when I got up in the morning, I felt better about my perspective change, because I was having a lot of anxiety yesterday, just trying to, I don't know why I had anxiety. I'll go through waves of anxiety, but just, recognizing that I just needed a mental break. I needed to, and it was okay to veg out for 3 hours, and I don't have to be productive for 3 hours, and I can go to bed at 8.
Oh, that's great. Good for you.
This topic is so interesting to me, because I think that for women who care about their careers and their jobs, but who are also moms, it is always this tug, right? I mean, it just sometimes you feel it strongly in one direction, and sometimes it pulls you in the other direction. And I think, just listen, I'm so grateful to be able to hear everyone's thoughts on it, even as a panel member, because it's so nice to know that, we do really ebb and flow through it, right? And we have to sort of accept that that's what it is. There are days when our career stuff is winning, but maybe we weren't the best mom. And then there are other days the other way, and you have to look at it more from the holistic, how is my week? Maybe how is my month? Instead of on an hourly basis, which I think is one of the hard parts about being home right now, is like, I don't know about you guys, but like some days the hours fly by and I don't know what I did with my time. And then
Mhm.
other days it's like going so slowly and my brain's going so all over the place. And sometimes I think you just have to like ride it out, right? You can't control the thoughts. But to Erin's point, I think, putting your device away is great. I was just thinking this morning that I've been on my phone, like constantly trying to keep on top of my email, or my friends, did someone text? Are they okay? And it's okay, right? Put it down, come back to it later. But it feels extra hard working from home. I feel I feel like I have to be more responsive than usual, which is also a crazy thought to have, right? That does not make sense with what reality looks like for most people.
Well, it's like those
Right.
two hats. Have you guys seen that joke go by? I think I saw it on Twitter where it was like, my son's friend was like, "Oh, you're two moms," and the son's like, "No, I don't have two moms," and he's like, "Yeah, the pretty one and the other one, just one mom." And I think for me, that resonates not only the aesthetic, because like definitely sometimes I'm showing up as the pretty mom and sometimes I'm not, but also beyond that is like sometimes I have everything together, my business is going great, but like, the next day I'm a terrible mom, and I'm just failing there. And so there's always somehow two moms that are operating within all of us.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And let's open this up for everybody to join us and ask us questions, and then we can, wrap up. But thank you for sharing all of your insight. And I'm gonna unmute everybody, I think. So if anybody has any questions or if they want to make any comments, I think everybody can be allowed to talk as well too.
I saw one of the comments posted by, is it Anitra? She's got, is that 4 kids I count at home right now? Is that what if she's there, looking at it like, oh, she said yes. And so I was telling them, I called a friend of mine who's got 3 boys under 7 at home the other day. And you have 5? Okay, but one is 21. Although are they back home? Because that's not necessarily an easier thing either, right? But with all those, that's a lot of kids, and kudos to you guys with multiple children. Cherish surviving at home. Like it is hard. Like I won't lie. Like this situation,
you're gonna make it, Emily. I promise.
Sorry,
you're gonna make it. I promise.
Oh my God. Do you see the fear?
I remember. I'm so yeah, I know. I think it also is nice. I think one thing that's really nice is seeing the men having, I love that like all of a sudden though, this is like open the floodgates for like men, normalizing men being fathers and working and having their children show up on their Zoom accounts. I think that that's really interesting to see. Maybe we can shift some cultural, like when we do come out of this, will that be easier for all of us to show up and be part of the family, but also be working professionals who can, provide for their families.
Right. And then it's also the fact that going back to that idea that Tara was talking about, in the sense of saying, you are still running a business. And so income still, this is how I feel. Income still needs to come into the household, regardless if I'm homeschooling or,
Oh, you mean you guys haven't all gotten a huge check from the government yet?
No.
We don't count.
It appeared within 3 business days.
We don't fall into the buckets. Don't get me started, whatever.
Yeah, but just all of those things. So I do feel the pressure of, the idea of still maintaining and the idea of running your business, because at the end of the day, you still have bills to pay, or we still have bills to pay, but still trying to maintain, some semblance of normalcy, but not get stressed out about, money coming in. And then running your business, but then also making sure that the kids are okay and healthy. I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
But
we all run our own businesses, right? So we're not getting paid by corporate America, which I'm sure we all decided that's not who we want to get paid by anyway, which is okay. Aaron, I think you were talking about this earlier about sales, and I heard this on another Zoom call earlier today, and about how, I don't know what to talk to people about with my products and services. And there are still a lot of people out there who are running businesses and need people's products and services, all of ours. So, I think it's I think it depends on which lens you're looking through, you know what I mean, of who you're speaking with and what their lens is, because there's still a lot of business going on, particularly in real estate right now. It's not like the stock market, thankfully, because it's going to help uphold our economy. I mean, there's so much going on right now with that.
Yeah, and it's new. I mean, to the extent that you can get past the overwhelm of just trying to get through the day, it's also exciting as a business owner to think about new ways. There's new problems, right? And especially if you are in the business of delivering professional services, even as a lawyer, sometimes my services could be blended as consulting, right? Like on some level. And so I think for women in particular, if you are sort of getting out of that overwhelm and I'm not trying to say, oh, you should be experimenting and finding new ways to be productive, but it is also an opportunity to be thinking outside the box and using technology tools and using some of that time at home to learn a new tool that maybe you can deliver a paid, video, or be helping people in new ways, and sort of experimenting there.
No,
one of the ways I'm doing that in my business is we went online. So for legal services, I've never sold legal services online, but I'm experimenting with a hunch of like, hey, maybe I can drop my price point and service a larger group of people by making some of these lower end services more transparent online. And then it's a great time for me to experiment because I don't mind lowering my prices right now because it's a weird time for business. It doesn't tap my resources at that lower price point right now just because I have the time to help people. So that's sort of like, I think if you are looking to be inspired or creative, which you definitely don't have to be, and it's okay if your biggest accomplishment of the day is just getting through the day, then be where you are. But if you want to be curious or you're worried about business, it's also an interesting time there to innovate.
No, I totally agree with that. Oh, Nicole, did you have a question or you want to speak?
Yeah, well, I was just going to piggyback kind of on what she was saying. So we actually own a virtual assistant company. We actually work with Emily. Thank you for extending the invite to this. So we obviously have been managing virtual assistants and virtual moms for many years now. I personally have worked at home for 14 years. So we're very familiar with this world. But one thing that we are focusing on, which one of your panelists was just talking about, is not that revenue is obviously not important, but using this time to really connect with our clients and build those relationships. And kind of showing up for them on value adds we can provide, just helping navigate. A lot of them, even though they may use us, they themselves may have not been remote. They may have had their employees now become remote and they're like, how do I even lead this team? So using this time to say like, hey, you're not just a number to me. I want to have that relationship with you because I do think people are going to come out of this and remember, who was there for them, who gave them grace, whether it's payment, whether it's helping on resources, technology, and that's really what we want the end result to be.
And Nicole, I think that's such a good point to make because I think, in a time where everyone is stressed and everything's uncertain, it is such a nice time to focus back on what I think is the core to successful businesses, which is going back and reinvesting in the relationships in a way that, so, I don't know the right words to describe it, but for me, for example, I sent some activity kits to some of my clients who have younger children, gave them an activity to do.
That's awesome.
Genius.
Yeah, that's
some
amazing.
People, I just sent out
Great.
some donuts, and it's easy, right?
They send
Someone else will
donuts?
deliver it. Sorry?
I was like, what service is
That's
that?
pretty
I
high
want
class
some
stuff.
donuts. I was like,
No, that's
donuts.
amazing. Brilliant.
No, I think it's
I'm
fantastic.
stealing that immediately.
Right? And I think that because someone sent me donuts, right? And it brought me and my daughter so much joy. It was an assorted dozen. We tried every one, of course. But it lifted my spirits in a way that I was like, you know what, this is such an easy way to tell my clients or my referral sources or just my friends, that I'm thinking of you and I know it's stressful regardless of how we want to spin it. And, I've sent some people just I'm checking in. How are you doing? And email. And I've done that to some clients and past clients, just so they know, we're here because we care. This balance that we do is not easy, right? And so you practice the way you do, you run your business the way you do for a reason. And I think it's a great time to show that to people right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does
I
a
love
donut
that.
delivery, Dunkin' Donuts is delivering these days? Or
So
Yeah, where-
is that Grubhub?
Dunkin' Donuts, Krispy Kreme is delivering,
Oh,
and a lot of
wow.
the
Oh, that's awesome.
the smaller donut shops, like the ones who really make the cool, like, the specialty
Yeah,
ones.
like Revolution.
So
Yeah.
you can look up the local restaurants close to the address that you're going to.
Cool.
And then
Nice.
heads up, so Easter's this Sunday. There's Easter like themed donuts, I believe some of them have.
Oh,
and
fun.
then Passover is going to end next Friday morning.
Don't send donuts.
I was going to send them in the morning after Passover is over.
But after Passover is over, all the donuts.
Exactly.
Send all the donuts.
Does Passover
Anitra,
end
did
on
you
Sunday
wanna
at
say?
midnight?
No, Passover this year ends, I believe it's Thursday.
Last time was the first night, so 8 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be
Okay.
Okay. Anitra, did you want to make a comment?
Oh, yeah. Hi, guys. This is Anitra. I've got the 4 little ones at home.
God bless
and
you,
it,
honey.
thanks. It is a true haste. Emily, when you were talking, I was like completely feeling your pain because there are some days where it is 4 o'clock and I'm exhausted as if I've done, so much with my business, but I'm working the homeschool thing with the 2 older ones, and it is grueling. But I also like the comment of having gratitude, because that's something that I'm really trying to focus on. Just sit down and be thankful for the space that I'm in. I like Nicole's comment earlier about taking the time to connect with your clients. That's what I'm doing for all of my my previous clients that I've had, just calling them, finding out if there's any resources that I can help them with. If not me, I know a lot of people that I can connect them with. I'm using this time to also ramp up my marketing, my social media marketing, and developing webinars, because that's what everyone's home now, so they can see those. But my question is, I'm interested to know, I'm an attorney. I practice collections for small businesses as well as personal injury, and I do take traffic cases. But I'm interested to know, of the attorneys that are on the panel, who are true solos, or if not solos, what does your support staff makeup look like? Do you have 10 people that help you out at the office? Because for me, it's just me. So I literally feel like I have maybe 50 hats that I'm doing right now. And you could probably hear it in my voice.
No, you sound great. So I am a solo, and but I do have a virtual marketing assistant. I have a virtual paralegal, and I have a wonderful, fantastic assistant, Amanda, who's on this call. And so it's just juggling that way. So there's different people for different things. But, hiring, virtual assistants or independent contractors for different projects, if it's becoming too overwhelming, has been very helpful to me.
Okay.
So, either, using a services like Nicole's, or I used it through Sourced, which is a staffing agency, and Amanda usually comes in, but now she's virtual. And so, but for the hours that you need. And so for me, during this time, I increased Amanda's hours because I knew that this was going to be a time to ramp up the processes, because I knew that I would not have another opportunity where I was locked inside my house and where I would be forced to do these things.
Right.
Like, not forced, but, just have the time, because usually
Right.
I'm running around so often and having the bandwidth to do that. So I was like, okay, I will invest money now in the hopes that, 2 months or a month from now, that I'll feel more comfortable taking on more clients, and the processes will be more efficient than what they are now.
Got it.
Well, I'm working on the same thing. I'm working on some document automation. I was working on that before we headed into this, but now, now there's just a bit more time. As far as support staff, right now I have a full-time virtual paralegal. She's in Georgia, but she's always worked from home. I've got a fabulous marketing person. She's on this call now. And she's been really helpful because, you know, Anitra, like you, I sort of have my hands full. Like, I don't know how you're putting on a webinar with what you've got during your day. But I think, you know, Nicole's service, I think it does help right now. One of the things that I have gotten a little better at during this time is delegating. You know, I go through my list of things that I have to do and, okay, what part of this can the paralegal help me with? If it's not the whole way through that task, can she further the ball so I have less to look at? Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Too many yellow Skittles. It's okay, put them down. But you know, Anitra, I'll tell you, I went from having a much bigger, like not a lot bigger, but last summer I had a part-time associate, full-time paralegal, and a full-time assistant. And we probably weren't meshed well, but I will tell you that I found it harder I found the work in managing that team to be very difficult with everything else I was managing. And it was, so I ended up, I got rid of everybody, and I started from scratch. And that sort of helped because it'll show you where you want to spend your time and where you can delegate something. And you should probably reach out to Nicole because the way their pricing structure is set up, it's not a huge investment to get the help. And so I would go ahead, the question about the marketing assistant, I lucked into her, but she is on this call. So I go ahead to Sarah, why don't you comment? She's been so helpful, and we've been working on strategy for marketing, putting together like a client welcome package, and things that, you know, have been on your list to do for a while, but you just, you know, they were too small, but also too big. And now it's the time to like break it apart, see what you can delegate, and, you know, go from there.
Okay, thanks.
I agree. That's good.
Oh, and one thing, can Nicole put her information in the chat box?
Absolutely, I'll do that right now.
Thanks.
And we'll collect all of these resources, and then we'll send them to you as a document, because we do have some like Fine Life podcasts that have been recommended and that we're compiling, and then we'll just send it to you since you registered, and then you can share it with anybody else that you want. But like, you know, mindfulness tips for, like, one of the things that I love for my kids is this thing called Big Life Podcast. And this Big Life, they have a Facebook page, and then they also have free printables and downloads every week that they'll send you. And so the last one was, I think, 50 mindfulness tips and things that, you know, encourage a growth mindset. And so a lot of the materials right now are geared towards children going through this crisis, but with a growth mindset. And so it's a really, really great resource. So you might want to use that with all, and they have them with all different age ranges.
Oh, perfect.
So from really little ones and then the bigger ones.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions? Because I know that we're reaching upon the, and I can't see.
I did want to share, just like my office setup is very similar to what you guys have already described, but I also wanted to share, like, you know, if this is your first, like, oh gosh, now I need to figure out a way to work remotely, it's really focused on the small wins, like a tiny improvement. Like if you're starting from square one, a place that I like to tell lawyers to start and look at is like onboard intake forms, you know, and you can just, you know, find 20 minutes to like play around with like Google Forms if you've never done it. And every form product works the same basically. So you can just start somewhere small. You don't have to be like, okay, well now I've decided to get serious about my office, so I'm going to revamp everything, because that's a lot if you're at home with 4 kids and you're trying to run your business and you're just going to have like advice and decision like fatigue. But I think, you know, just finding that one place, you will find a huge amount of productivity and help picking one tool, like maybe it's electronic signatures, and then that will fuel your energy and excitement around getting more things, as opposed to deciding like, okay, this is rock bottom, I got to figure something out, and trying to design everything all at once. Because You know, if you're a perfectionist, and most high achieving women are,
Yes.
we want it to be exactly right, you know, and like we're going to commit to
Yes.
it. It's going to be perfect. And you got to give yourself, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be an experiment. That's how we get better. And it's better if you fail, right? Like we actually get better. So little things.
No, I totally agree with that comment. Any other final comments?
I
Well,
would
thank you. Oh,
sorry,
no, sorry.
the only one I wanted to add for the women on this group is find Facebook groups. I found them to be super helpful, but you can post a question like, hey, what do you guys use for electronic signatures? And people are very willing to talk to you. I'm sure we would all tell you, like, I've tried DocuSign, Adobe. There's a whole bunch of other ones. And, I think they all are generally about the same. But I think it's a good time you can reach out to your referrals about things like that too, right? Like, I'm trying to figure out this kink on electric signing. And, reach out to the people because we're all here. We're all wondering the same thing. Like, what can we do? What should we do? What has to happen next?
Well, and there's so many technology products out there. I wanted to also say, like, you can negotiate. It's a really great time as a consumer to sort of be in that place, because we can negotiate better rates. Like, people don't think about that when you're speaking to these tech companies and looking at new products. You can find better deals. You can, you really can shop the market, and there's a lot of opportunities out there, and there's a lot of really high quality programming that's free around those products. So the people who own those products are really smart. They're a great resource. And they're really helpful if you find the right place.
Awesome. Well, thank you, panelists. Thank you, Emily, Erin, and Tara. And thank you for all of the attendees for showing up today and participating. I appreciate all of your input and the attendees' input as well, too. And we just want to continue to be a resource and positive light in this crazy, crazy time. And so we will be sending you our information. And if we could be of resource to you, all of our contact information will be in the follow-up. So thank you again. And if you know anybody who would like this recording, we will send you the recording as well, too, so you can share it with your other friends who weren't able to jump on. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Take care. Bye.